Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Note Investing Made Easier, the podcast show. Um, I'm coming to you live from Destin, Florida, where we're going to embark on our Note Investing Made Easier mastermind that's taking place in Destin, Florida, right on the water, right on the Gulf. And that starts tomorrow, and it's sold out. And we have incredible individuals coming, and we have put so much preparation into the curriculum, into the format for the mastermind. So we're going to be touching on all next level topics, and I'm so super excited because I'm going to learn, and then I'm going to poach the group like never before for RPLs, because we are looking left, right, front, back for RPL notes at this time as we are growing. And Shawn, you are joining us from you tell us.
I'm in beautiful Barbados, Martin. It's great. I don't know if you can see the beach behind me, but it's been a rough place to operate an office for the past 6 days.
and you're going to come join us for the mastermind.
Absolutely. I'll be heading out of here tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, look forward to that, and let's get started. I mean, the topic is no note left behind, or no note left behind policy. And before we kind of jump into that, I want to just talk about what is a policy. Why does an organization need a policy in place? And I'll throw that to you, Shawn.
Yeah, Martin, it's really important as you grow your business to think about setting up policies just in general. Everybody in the organization needs to know how to handle a specific situation. And so whether it's a process we have as it relates to gathering information from borrowers when they're asking for a short sale approval, or gathering from information from borrowers where they're asking for a modification, right? We have policies that are put in place so that the company can be organized, right? And everybody expects certain things to happen. And so as you grow your organization, setting policies becomes a regular thing that you begin to do, just to keep your arms around the operation.
And so you kind of hit the nail on the head. Growth, right? Whether you're starting your note business, whether you have a note business that's already in kind of the midlife stage, or you're an investor that's investing in an income fund within the note space, whatever the case may be, you should still look for that organization to have policies in place so that there's a consistent message that's being translated through the company. And normally, right, we're having the policies on topics whereby there's been some miscommunication, there's been some areas where things have fallen through the cracks. So let's talk, Shawn, here about what are some of the things that fell through the cracks that are the reasoning behind the creation of the no note left behind policy.
Yeah, the no note left behind policy. Martin, I think you coined the term, but at the end of the day, when we first started our note business together, obviously Martin and I were note investors before we teamed up. We started buying assets at a very large level, and we would buy pools of assets, and it just seemed that certain assets were getting worked and certain assets were getting pushed to the side, and we were operating so quickly that we just kept moving forward, buying assets, and you turn around and all of a sudden you got all this carnage behind you and notes that got stuck on the shelf, and we may be paying for capital for those loans that are just sitting on the sidelines. And for us, it was like, wow, there's a lot of waste. We're generating waste in the organization. And so how do we keep everything moving in one direction or another. And I think that's what birthed the no note left behind philosophy.
So you go and you buy, let's say, for example, you go and you buy 20 notes, and in order to buy the 18 good notes or the 18 notes that you wanted to buy, you had to pick up the additional two. Now, it's not always the case that those two notes are bad notes necessarily. They can just be outside your buy box, outside your area of comfort, outside what your investors choose to invest in, whatever the case. So you have two notes that are not doing anything for you. And the idea of note investing is to buy assets that are going to create cash flow for you or some capital gain. So if you have notes that, you know, you buy 20 and then two are just going to be shelved, you buy another 20 and then two are going to be shelved, then you have four notes that are shelved. And before you know it, it is time to have a garage sale of sorts. So tell us, like, what you know, how the policy was implemented with the team.
Well, I think we started this regular occurrence with our asset managers, whereby we would go through all of the assets they were responsible for on a monthly basis, and as we went note by note, finding out, hey, is this thing moving in one direction or the other? Right, the asset needs to be moving. And what we found out was there's a lot of assets that weren't moving for one reason or another. And so every time we come across assets that weren't moving, we did have kind of a shelf. And so we unfortunately trained our asset managers that it was okay to put something on the shelf. It's like, oh, that one's on the shelf. And so I think it was like you and I are like, what do you mean? Like, why do we have a shelf again? Like, shelf for what? We don't need a shelf. And so at that point, it's like, no, there's no shelf. It's moving in one direction or the other. If it needs to be put on the shelf, it needs to be moved out for somebody else to take a crack at it. And so I think that's really where the policy was birthed.
Thank you, Shawn. And go ahead and mute when you're not talking, because we're getting background noise, whether it's from me or you. So go ahead and mute, and then I'll kind of kick in at this point.
Yeah.
So we, we came up, we made the determination. We said every note is going to perform a function. Every note is going to be worked in some capacity. And if it's not, we're going to do a refreshing. We're going to go refresh our portfolio every quarter. We're going to go look at the notes that we're not doing anything with. And we're going to ask ourselves, okay, can we do something with these notes? Can we put it into legal? Can we start the borrower outreach? Can we start the workout process for that note, whereby we're converting it from a non-performing state to a performing state? Can we contact the borrower, see if we can get a deed in lieu? Can we come to some exit through the borrower at this point? Or we're going to say, is this note sellable? Obviously, if the note doesn't have any baggage, we're very careful about the notes we sell. We don't want to sell a note whereby the borrower has lawyered up and done some legal action against our company, something like that. So it's got to be a clean note. It's got to meet other criteria. It's got to be as in sellable condition. So should we sell the note? So either we're going to work it out, sell it, but we're not going to shelve it. And what we did to really put our policy to the test is we actually removed our on hold folder system, and so whereby you cannot place one of our notes in an on hold state anymore. It either is worked or it's for sale. And where I kind of got that tip is when my wife and I first started business in 05. We met with a CPA, and he told us when we were setting up our QuickBooks, he said, you will not have a miscellaneous category, because you are going to dump everything in there. Everything needs to be categorized. And that
Yeah.
always stuck with me. And I know your wife is an accountant, Shawn. So, like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. Everything needs a category, and she's kind of ingrained that into my mind. But yes, so for our loans that we're working, there are very specific categories, right? Either it's moving down a loan modification path, or it's moving down a short sale path, or a notice of sale path where we hope to get it sold at the courthouse steps, or it's getting sold to somebody else. And I think you mentioned it. It's not that it's a bad loan because we're selling it. It's just it might not be the right time for the borrower, right? It could be that maybe they haven't recovered from their financial situation, and the next note buyer who buys it, the timing will be just right. And so it's not that it's timing is everything in our business. It's everything. And so it's not the right time for that loan and that borrower to come to terms. And so we'll let somebody else take a crack at it. And I've had success with other people's notes, and I know, and people have had success with our loans when we sell them. And so it's not a bad thing for inventory to move around our space. It's actually a good thing, right? It's like I tried. I struck out, you try. And when you hear stories about other note investors, be like, Shawn, you sold me that note and I got a mod. You know what? I'm like, I'm happy for you, right? It just wasn't the right timing for me. It was perfect for you. And I'm glad that somebody got a loan mod off that loan.
Yeah, and what's interesting? Absolutely, we're always happy, and I hear from individuals that we've transacted with, and they've told me, and sometimes they're a little leery, right? They don't want to say, "Oh, we did so well," because obviously you'll hear when something didn't go right, right? And then when something goes well, you kind of don't hear it, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to put it out there because maybe they won't sell me another note or something like that." And the truth of the matter is, like, we're happy for everyone's success. I mean, when we sell a note, it's not that it's just that it wasn't the right fit for us. And when we do our quarterly refresh of our portfolio, we actually always find a healthy batch of notes that were shelved that 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 we overlooked doing something on, or the asset managers were not, pushing it in certain angles that needed to be pushed, and good things happen. I mean, we had one where there was a foreclosure on the first in 2019, 1 year ago, and you know who I'm talking about. And then we had our asset manager reach out to the county treasury office, and there's funds in reserve, like funds are held back by the county, and we're actually going to get paid almost in full for that
Yeah.
note. And because funds were there, they were never claimed, and they never went back to the bar for some reason, I don't know. So we put in, we had our attorneys file all the legal paperwork, and now we're in line where they're validating our claim, and to get our payoff in. And we've had other ones where heck, we bought a note, we thought it was a junk note at the time because we bought it in some larger pool, and we find out it's in first lien position on a 70-80K home. So,
Right.
I mean, it was a smaller loan in this case, but it's still a loan nonetheless. So it kind of keeps you sharp, and it's actually kind of like free money. It's found money, but not really, because you paid for it originally. But it gives new inventory for the asset managers when you refresh your portfolio.
Yeah, so we see the no note left behind policies. It's very important for our business because it projects to our asset managers that something must always be moving. An asset must always be moving in one direction or the other. And when an asset seems to be stopped or stuck, it's not okay to put it on the shelf and just wait, right? It's not okay for us to wait for something to happen. We always want it moving, and it's been great. It actually gives more incentive to the asset managers, because they know if they sit on something too long, they might not have that asset anymore to work. So it's definitely a really good policy for any note investor to make sure that assets are always moving.
And at the end of the day, it sends a note. It sends that message to the team, right? That's what you're saying.
Right.
And the message is that we're lean. We may be growing, but we are very lean, and we need to turn over every single rock possible. And if you get that mindset going with your whole team, and they start thinking like, hey, they start looking for different possibilities to work out notes, and they get sharper as a result. We all get sharper together, and more profitable. But also too, we're more of service, right? The clock's always ticking, as we've talked about, with per diem interest. And the sooner you can bring resolution to a borrower, especially on a shelled note where the clock's ticking for that borrower, the better it is for everybody involved.
Yeah. And I was just looking at a portfolio that we bought, I think last August. And everybody always says, okay, you buy a pool of loans, like what's good as it relates to like exiting on the loans, and our bar is at 100%. Like, I want every loan exited at some point, right? Whether it's a loan mod or a payoff or a short sale or whatever. And I was just looking at that portfolio, and I'm like, man, we're at 80%. That one's like almost at 100, and that's where the bar needs to be, right? We want 100% results on pools that we buy. And for us, here it is. We're now 14 months into a pool purchase. If we purchased it last August, and we're at like 83% exited, we're not happy until that's 100. Like, I won't be happy until that's 100%. If I can come to you, Martin, and be like, hey, that pool we bought, it's done. Like, it's complete. You're like, whoa, it's complete. Yeah, it's complete. There's no more work to be done in that pool. Like, that's what we want for every single pool that we own.
And it's interesting when I first came into the note space, it's my understanding, my learning was that you're exiting through the bar, or you're exiting through the property, and be prepared for all all various scenarios and in betweens and everything else. And what I learned, and this is probably through our partnership, is that I'm not going to accept that norm. I'm not going to accept that strategy anymore. And just because it's been something ingrained with so many note investors, be prepared for all various scenarios, I'm going to say to myself that I only want to buy notes where I'm going to exit through the borrower. And as a result, when you set that, that's a policy, right? Yeah. That's a policy from a sourcing perspective. And guess what, Shawn, what's the percentage of our portfolio that we exit through foreclosure?
1%, if that.
So I'm putting major emphasis, and I know there's some haters out there, and they're going to say, oh, well, you're shortchanging your due diligence process. You're skimping. You're getting lazy. They're going to call it what they will, because they have their own approach, and I'm not going to have that approach. I'm going to say that I'd rather focus on ensuring that I'm buying notes whereby I'm foreclosing less than 1% of the time. Meaning that literally, maybe 2%, 3% we exit through the property. And that's because deed and lose, short sale, something like that. A majority of the time we're exiting through the bar. They refi us out. They, something happened, loan modification, mostly reinstate.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and that's why I feel like for us, it's a great strategy. We're trying to create long-term cash flow, and the only way to do that is to have borrowers paying on loans, and so that's our strategy, and it's working. By the way, it's really working.
Yeah, yeah, and it's great when you are one that is constantly looking for all possibilities to work out every loan you have and not getting lazy. And it just, I think it helps like bring you to a point where you're not just listening to what other people are doing and saying and just accepting what those norms, and you're starting to create your own trends that work well for your company. And create policies, start with that.
Yeah.
So I would just encourage everyone, as a wrap up here, is not just the no note left behind. That's just one policy of many. Look at the areas of your business where you have shortcomings, and create policies around that, where you are putting in place something that says this is unacceptable for this to happen, and this is totally acceptable for how this needs to happen. And you kind of just set those absolutes, frame them, put them up right in front of you. This is the no nonsense policy. Even like I was talking to someone earlier this week, right? And they're having trouble sourcing, right? They're not picking up the phone enough. They're not building the relationships. Make a sourcing policy and put it right in front of your face that you will do XYZ on a daily basis until ABC occurs. And just start putting those absolutes out there, and you'll find that the universe, the business community will reward you the more that you have your stuff together.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Awesome. Well, I want to end on this, guys. So if you are new to note investing and you want to learn how to note invest the right way and learn the fundamentals of note investing, then join us in Sarasota on December 12th and 13th. In our office, we're gonna host the Note Investing Fundamentals Workshop. We're gonna cover sourcing, due diligence, and asset management. Many times when you are learning about notes, all I hear from individuals is like, nobody tells me where to find notes. We're gonna cover where to find notes. Nobody tells me, like, gives me all their vendors, gives me all the resources. We're giving you all the resources. We're giving you all our agreements, all our documents that we use on a daily basis, all part of this workshop, so you can start note investing the next day. As well as, we're going to have a mastermind with people that are already note investing, not newbies, but they're already note investing, on December 10th and 11th in our office in Sarasota as well. So a lot going on. And with that, I will leave it. Yeah, Scott, we'll see you, brother. I know you're all set up for Sarasota, and we're gonna have a great time. We always go out one of the